Hi everybody. Today I'm going to work on making some layered sounds, and I'm going to apply some Aftertouch to it because that's always a really nice thing to have some manual control over the sounds that you're getting out of your synths. So I am going to do this in F minor. In here I have a polygrid. I'll start with that. It's probably unnecessary. This could all be done with Polymer, but I thought, get into some synth building stuff too. And when you open up Polymer, it has all this stuff here, but I'll just put it together from scratch in case you're not familiar with that. So this one I'll do a wavetable. Here we go. And this is going to need an audio out. So by default in Bitwig, there are these pre-chords. So if you play a MIDI note, you're not hearing it now because I turned it off. But you don't actually have to hook anything up. The gates automatically connect to what they should connect to. The notes automatically connect to what they should connect to. So we're also going to need an AD or ADSR. I'll use the ADSR because I think I want this to be sustained sound. So now this is going to automatically get the gate from the keys as I play them. All right, and it's getting the pitches. And I'm probably going to want a filter. I'll try the Salian key here. I don't think it really matters whether you put it in front of or after the ADSR. And you might have noticed here, so I'm playing two notes, but it just bounces back and forth between one and two, between each of them. And that is because this is set to mono. And I am going to set this, okay. This scrolling function is a little funny in Bitwig, beta 6. You do not need to be using beta 6 right now, but I am, even though it's unnecessary. So now I can play chords. I can play up to 6 notes. But who knows, maybe I'll want to be able to play more than 6 notes, so I'll just make this 12. That will be more than enough because I only have 10 fingers. So now got cool stuff going on. Okay, and just to mention, this isn't even a real keyboard. It's like it's a push, so I am automatically in key. I don't even have to work for this, but I'm really not a good keyboard player, so bear with me. All right, so first thing I know that I want to do here is I would like this to actually have separate layers for the left hand and the right hand. So right now I'm thinking about this synth as the right hand, and I'll be coming back in here and making some changes soon, but for a moment we're just going to set up the left hand side. So what I want to do is to separate this out so that everything under a certain note is going to one synth, and then everything above that same note is going to be going to all of the other synths because they will be in layers. So for starters there, I'm going to get note filter. And let me check here. I think I want to break this out at C3 maybe. Maybe I'll actually make it down to F2. All right, so going back to the device here, push D, get back to device, and I want to, this is just the lowest note we have, and this is going to go up to, what did I say, F2. Cool. So now that's F2. Oh, sorry. F2 in the bottom, and then this should be something high. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see this MIDI note over here, right? I'm getting MIDI, but nothing is passing through because that's actually E2. So this is our cutoff here. So anything I play above that goes through, anything I play under it doesn't. So now what I'm going to do is grab all of this, hit Command G, and I'm going to double this. Now I'm going to rename this first one highs, and I'm going to rename this one lows. So back here in the lows, I'm going to take out the polygrid because, you know what? I'll just build out a sub in the polygrid. So now this is cool. I want this one to be the opposite. I want it to get everything up to F2. In fact, you know what? I want this lower synth to get F2, so I'm going to change this to F sharp 2, which I guess is 54, but I'm going to type it in, and then I'm going to go back in here and change this 54. Because I want that here. So now you'll see that this also isn't getting anything below F sharp 2 now, and I want to reverse that. So rather than going through and figuring out what notes to set up and changing this thing here, I can just change this to remove. So now this is going to be removing every note below F2 for the lows. And there's a couple of reasons that I want to do this. Firstly is that I do want this one to be mono. So now this one is just going to play one note. And it's not necessary, but it will make my life a little easier. You know, if you're a good piano player, you probably don't need to do this. All right, cool. So now I'm going to go into this second polygrid here. I can leave all this stuff, but I'm going to change this, right-click on it, change it to sub. And I think I will, let's start off with a triangle here. So now that's nice and low, pretty cool. And additionally, what I want to do here is bring this down. Maybe a little higher than that. Cool. So I'm going to use that as an effect at some point. In fact, I'll just go ahead and do that right now since I'm talking about it. In here, in the modulators, the polygrid, I have not changed this. If you've changed your preset, you might not have this, but this comes preset with the expressions. So on an MPE, on my MPE keyboard, it's sensitive to pressure and timbre, and also it'll bend the notes. Let's see if you can hear that. A little bit of vibrato there. That's just from me moving my finger back and forth, which is cool, but may not be ideal for this. So what I'm going to do here is in this lows, I'm going to take the pressure and assign it to the filter here. So now, as I'm playing, and I think this is a little bit loud. Maybe I'd like this to be a little more plucky, but I'd like it to have that sustain still. So I do think also that I'd like this to be able to go up a little higher and maybe also get some more resonance as I... that'll be enough for now for the sub. Okay, so in the highs here, I'll just leave this wavetable as it is. Maybe I'll actually assign a random here. This can stay unipolar. I'm going to make it smooth, and it's just going to give me some different All right, let's see. I think I'm also going to give this some voice stacking. I'll go here. I'll give it 5 voices. Get, I think, stack spread. I'm going to assign this from -1 to 1. I'll put mixer in here. I don't know if I'm going to add more sounds into this particular synth or not, but if so, I have this to add those layers in. So now this stack spread, I'm going to go here and assign it to the pan. And take the volume down here because now there's a lot of voices. I think, in fact, what I'd rather do than... No, I'll leave that, and I think I'm going to go ahead and get a random here. Now, I'll set this again to smooth, and I am going to make the random bipolar. I think this should be able to... No, I guess this is just automatically done. I'll just have it modulate. Nope, can't modulate that either. All right. It will modulate the pan. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to get rid of this. Let's see how that is. Okay, and what I'd also like to do is I'm going to take another random here. Let's get rid of this. Now, this random... I'll make it a different number here and just really small amount here. Now I feel like this should be getting a little more. And I feel, that was just, okay, now I'm going to take this back down to 0. So this random is going to be modulating the detune, and I'm doing that rather than having a standard unison, just because I kind of like it. And maybe I could assign some pressure here to the phase mod. Let's see how that sounds. I suppose that I actually need to assign something to that. I'm not sure that I can just assign this back here. No. So I'm going to grab a long delay. This is to make it not have a feedback loop. So I'm going to take the output of the Salian key here and feed it back in now. That's kind of cool. And I think I'll just go ahead and assign the timbre, which is, the timbre is if you move your finger up and down on my particular keyboard. Yours may be assigned something else. So now all right, kind of cool. I might end up taking that out later depending on what other kinds of layers I put in here. I'm going to add some extra release, some extra attack. Let's get a compressor in here because that's getting a little unruly. That's a pretty excessive amount of compression, but that's just fine. I'm going to throw a Valhalla Supermassive on here, and let's go with let's see how this sounds. All right, that'll do. So now within this, I would like to keep the effects on this one kind of separate. So I'm just going to keep on adding things in behind this note filter here. I'm going to start grouping here. So I'm going to select the polygrid, hit Command G, and now I am going to add in just a polymer. I'm not going to make this one from scratch, but I am going to spell that correctly. Here we go. Now this one, I'm going to take this up out, and this is going to be a kind of plucky sound, but I'm going to do it with the LFO. So I'm just going to have infinite sustain here, and let's try a sine for starters. Let's instead try, let's see about phase one. I'm going to assign the LFO here. In fact, just for fun, let's try out the wavetable LFO and see if we can get something that sounds kind of cool. I'm going to go in here. Let's see what we've got under LFO and sequences. Some of these Euclidean envelopes can be pretty nice. Euclidean 13, why not? Maybe that'll be a little busy, but we're going to find out. I wonder if I can just do this with the filter. That's real zappy. All right, it's cool in principle, but it's not going to work on here. So let's take that off. Just not do that. Set it so it's audible. Maybe. Now I'm going to take the volume all the way down and let's see how this does now. I mean, I do like that. Let me just throw a little drum beat in here to see exactly how this shapes up. I'll just do a 4 on the floor beat. Real basic. I have this set to halftime. I'll try it at... let's go back. And I'm going to... When I say halftime, I mean I'm going to double this so that while it says 150, it is in fact at 75. All right, let's see how we're doing over here. And I'm going to turn this back on. All right, this, I'll take it down to something a little less frenetic. I'd like it to be twice as fast. Oh, I said twice as fast, but I made it half as fast. Let's try this one instead. Once again, I mean to do half, and I do double. Okay, I like that. Maybe what I'll do here is put a random, we'll see how this goes. I'll set this to smooth again, and this is gonna modulate the index, and I want this to be bipolar. Yeah. Okay, so now I don't actually want this to be going all the time, but I think I do want it to be louder, so I'll go up here now, why not? Okay, so that's good. Maybe a little. Let's try instead of that a salient key, and I'm going to set this to bandpass 6, perhaps. It still does sound a little bit harsh. Let's just go back here to the low pass. All right, cool. That's better than it was before. So what I will do now is I'm going to go into this wavetable LF. I'm going to take the... that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to take the magnitude all the way down. So now here we get nothing. Only the original synthesizer. And I'm going to assign this as well, pressure, to that. So now all right, that's pretty cool. And this one, I'm going to put some just Bitwig dotted eighth delay here and some convolution. You know, let's, instead of the dotted eighth, I'll try out a delay 2. I keep missing these notes for some reason, but you know, like whatever. All right, so that's another layer there. Okay, so before I got started here, I recorded myself singing C3 and C4, and then I took the C3 and I auto-tuned it down an octave. And I have some random panning going on here, and I stretched it out pretty far so that it sounds weird and stretchy. So that's what that sounds like. We do not, of course, need to listen to the whole thing. So in here, again, in the highs section, after the note filter in the layer, I'm going to get a sampler. And now I'm going to drop this in here. So now the middle note is C3, so we should be good here and not have to change this. All right, I'm going to change this to textures, which is granular. And I'm going to grab a random here, and I'm going to set this to whatever, that's smooth, and I'm going to set it to reset each time a note plays. Let's make this very slow. So now this is going to change where the playhead is for each note. I'm going to set this to forward and reverse loop, bring this in a little bit just so that we're, you know, getting a... So that sounds a little bit silly. I think, yeah, so with the freeze, it's very nice. It'll just move it around according to the random. So I'm going to move this voice stack up to 3. Do a random on the pan. This will also reset at notes. Smooth, bipolar. Here we go. I'm going to copy this. This is going to play at a different rate. Whatever, I changed that one, didn't mean to, but it's fine. And this is going to change the motion. I'm going to copy this over again and change the rate here too. And now this one is going to mess with the grain. Okay, so. I think the one that's hitting the grain, I'm going to make it unipolar because. Let's take it down. Okay, a little ridiculous. I'm going to take out some of the lows. Okay, that's better. And this is a little bit loud. All right, now in the effects, I'm going to add Filter Plus. I'm going to take out, well, let's see how it is with distortion. Yeah, what the hell, let's keep it. With this, I'm going to assign also the pressure to cutoff. Let's take it down a little here. Okay, now I can take the volume up a little bit. I'm going to put another black hole in here. I don't care that this is going to not work. Sorry, not black hole. I'm just going to do my best here to use all free or native stuff. So Valhalla Supermassive is what I meant. What do we have? How about half note? I wonder how this is going to go. Half note spray, yeah. What's that? So as you can hear, sometimes as I said, the MPE will affect the pitch. So sometimes you're hearing that. And I think what I would do in a real world situation is, one, try not to suck. But since that's probably not in the cards for me, I would also just record this and then delete the pitch bends. Unless it sounds cool. And then I would leave them in, right? Why not? Is there anything else I want to do with this one for now? Probably not. Might be cool to add a phaser or a chorus. Well, let's do it. We're not worrying about how this sounds in mono because we like to live dangerously. Okay, but this does need to come down. You know, I was just pushing down really hard and I didn't hear this. There it is. Maybe this just needs to be a little bit louder now. Now that I'm back here, I think I would like for this to be moving around a little bit in the stereo field. So I'm going to set this to 16th notes, not 32nd. Bipolar. What's that really unruly? It's somewhere in here. Sorry, I didn't mean to take that out. Just gonna throw an EQ and take out some like 200 hertz-ish. Maybe it's 5. Maybe it's all of the above. Let's see how the XP sounds. All right, let's okay, sure. Why not? It's just really chaotic. Okay, that's better. Maybe it was just the grain size. All right. And, you know, you can go on like this forever. I'm just going to throw another sampler in here, and I'm going to put kalimba in there. I think this is not part of Bitwig, but I'm sure you can find a kalimba sample. I just love it for adding a pluck layer on things. I'm going to give it just a little bit of attack. And some delay. You know, the smart thing to do would probably have been to make a delay send and send these individually, but I didn't do that, so it's okay. give this one some compressor too. I just keep like forgetting that I'm supposed to be doing something and playing stuff. Sorry. I mean, yeah, that's probably cool, right? I'm just gonna play something and see if something cool happens now. And before I do that, as I often do, I'm just gonna throw some delay on the snare. Okay. Okay, cool. So, a lot of interesting concepts in there. Maybe not the best sounds and definitely not the best jam, but I bet you got some cool ideas for stuff that you could do with this. I don't remember if I mentioned this at the beginning. You can do all of this in the grid with one maybe exception, or else I just couldn't figure it out. But having this low layer here be mono, which I really wanted, is just either impossible or a challenge that I have yet to figure out in the grid. You can separate out by different notes going to different synths, and of course you could go even farther with that by splitting out this upper range so that not all of these synths are playing at the same time, and so on. You can add more layers. You can bounce this whole thing out into one long note, and then you can put that in a sampler and then have that play randomly, as I did with this one. Yes, this one. You could add a piano in, which now that I mention it, I kind of wish that I had, but I already did that crappy jam, so I don't need to do another one. But I bet that would be rad. And of course, you can assign macros in here, right? So that you can change the balances of these things with your hands in addition to the touch sensitivity. It's just like a lot of fun to be able to control stuff with MPE. Thanks for watching. Hope you made something super cool. If you did, I'd love to hear about it. / hearing it would be even cooler than hearing about it, but I'd be pretty stoked about either of those options. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.